What is going on, everyone? It's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and today I'm going to talk about the Skullcandy Crusher PLYR 720, a very gaming name for a very gaming headset. Now, this guy's available in a few variants. There's the PC and PlayStation version, and then there's the Xbox version. The Xbox version works on everything. PlayStation and PC version works on everything but Xbox wirelessly. This does have an analog input, but if you have an Xbox, just buy the Xbox version. Pretty simple. This was not sent to me for review, so I want to say that now. I have no kickbacks with the brand. They don't know I have one of these or I'm making a video on it, and I will have generic Amazon affiliate links in the description below because I use the Amazon money that I get from referral links to purchase products that aren't sent to me for review. So I'm going to do something called Too Long Didn't Watch if you're new to the channel, and even if you've been a follower or viewer for a while. It's a new chapter. I just want to save you time in case this, you don't want to watch the rest of this after hearing this. In a nutshell, this is a rather comfortable headset. The sound quality is surprisingly good, but I get let down by a whole plethora of other issues. I've had issues with the software, bugs with the way the headset works, things like the mute button not working on it. So I feel like it's kind of half-baked. It has good potential, and if you're willing to be a beta tester for Skullcandy, then maybe keep watching this video to learn more. Otherwise, if you're just here for entertainment, boy, do I have a good show for you today. So, the PLYR 720 comes with a few accessories in the box. I'm going to start with that first. That way I can kind of move on with the rest. And I like the packaging of this. It's pretty eco-friendly when you open it, and then you get a USB A to C cable, a TRRS cable. This is an analog cable. It's a flat ribbon kind. I have plenty of these, so I didn't want to unwind it because I wanted you to see how it was presented. And then you get a dongle. Now, if you get the Xbox version, the dongle's green, and there's a nice little switch on it that lets you go into Xbox mode. When you're in PC mode, it still works wirelessly on PlayStation and PC, of course, and it gets quite loud. Now, on the PC mode, you have game to chat mix built into the headset. You don't have to install the Skullcandy software, although you kind of want to for some updates. But it is nice to see that on Windows, you see two different output devices, one for chat, one for game. So that's pretty sweet. Obviously on Xbox mode, you'll get game to chat mix control as well. I'll get into the controls in a moment. On PlayStation, that's just never going to work because Sony doesn't allow it with third-party headsets. You also get 1 month of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is pretty sweet, at least with the Xbox version. I like the way this is presented, like I said. I think it's pretty clever. You get some Skullcandy stickers. The manual. This is something most people don't see or ever use, but this kind of segues into some of the things I ran into with this headset. So there are some misinformation pieces even in the manual. So for example, on Bluetooth pairing mode, it says in small print, hold the volume wheel for 3 seconds to pair your device. On the graphic, it says 4 seconds. So even on the same page, we have conflicting information. This kicks off a few things that I ran into. For one, when I first started gaming, I don't use like any software. I don't measure the frequency response. I just plug it in and I start playing, unabated by anything else and without influence of other things. And it was actually quite good. Okay, the comfort's good. I'm going to get into the details of this. But then I'm talking to my friends because I jumped in some Call of Duty, and I have to talk to my kids, and I go to mute. Guess what? Mute button does not work. And some of the controls that it talks about where you press and hold the mute button for other modes, that doesn't work because there's supposed to be an LED in here when you toggle mute. So I had an issue right off the bat. I installed the firmware updates hoping that that fixes it. It doesn't. So let's just get right into comfort and build quality first. I'm going to get into the performance and all that as I go because there'll be different bits and pieces with this. So the layout. I like the layout. It makes sense. I normally don't like a single function joystick, but it's quite easy to use with this one. So you have a power button here. You press and hold for 2 seconds to turn it on and off. Press and hold for 3, maybe 4 seconds. It's closer to 4 to get it to go in Bluetooth pairing mode. Now you see the blue light. That's because I am connected to my phone via Bluetooth, and I am very pleased to say Bluetooth is simultaneous with the 720. So this is huge. A lot of people want simultaneous, and for this price, to me it should be simultaneous, and I'm pleased to say that it is. Now this little volume wheel joystick thing, if you will, up and down for volume up and down, left and right for game to chat mix. Now, if you press the joystick in, you can toggle through EQ presets built into the headset. You get 4 from Skullcandy. you get several slots of your own custom EQ. It will save to the headset, which means even on Xbox and PlayStation, you can benefit from custom EQ. Now, if you press and hold this in, it'll change from game to chat mix to side tone mode, so you can adjust how loud you hear yourself speak, and then press and hold it again for 2 seconds to switch back to game chat mode. Now, on the Skullcandy software, it tells you when you look at the buttons and the layout of the software, and the Skullcandy software theme is cool because it's different. It's kind of like the vaporwave love child of the 80s, just came out with software for gaming headsets. And it tells you that the joystick is used to also change tracks, which I've never been able to do with this control. There's nothing in the manual that says that. So again, we have conflicting information, but the controls do work well. Now, on the controls, if you make changes to the volume, game to chat mix, side tone, mute, if you can mute somehow, mine can't, that doesn't update on the software. So even if you make changes here, even if you adjust the Skullcandy Crusher bass, nothing updates on the software, and as soon as you click something on the software, it overrides this. So there's no two-way communication with it for some reason. That takes me to the right side. So this says custom, which I thought meant you can customize, and you can't. If you press and hold this button, it will activate THX mode with spatial tracking, which is super cool. This has 3D tracking. Press and hold it for 2 seconds. Otherwise, if you tap it, it worked as an action button for both my PC and when I'm using Bluetooth, if I'm listening to music, I can tap that button to play pause. And then if I get a phone call, I can use it to answer. This doesn't say anything about the action button controls in the software either. It basically just tells you press it to activate THX. So once again, we have conflicting information. Then you have this crusher wheel, which is the vibration motors, because this has haptic feedback in the headset. If you max this thing out, it is like insane amounts of impact and vibration on your head. If you've ever had one of those percussion massagers, it's not quite to that level, but it's kind of shocking how strong it gets. And frankly, it's very much overwhelming, both for my skull and the headset, because if I listen to certain music with a lot of bass and I had this maxed out just to test it, this thing like slapped itself and made a really weird, kind of uncomfortable rattle sound. So I don't usually recommend going to max crusher volume, but the controls feel nice. All of the tactility, there's no rattles in the controls. Everything feels really solid. The chassis, however, is made of pretty much all plastic, and I am pleased to say that the microphone is detachable, so that's really sweet. This is an open back headset, which means it has no sound isolation whatsoever, so if you wear this in a noisy environment, you are still going to hear a noisy environment. There's no real occlusion effect, which is kind of nice because the side tone is pretty bad. Sounds very robotic and it's very faint, but because it's an open back, at least you can still hear yourself through that. And the build quality is decent. I like, again, the control part, but this is basically all plastic and it feels it. And I get really nervous at this hinge design because I don't know if this microphone will pick it up. It's creaking already. And there is quite a bit of flex in that single hinge point. And because this is all plastic, I don't know how well this is going to hold up. It feels solid when I put it on and off. The comfort is quite good. The clamp force is rather light at under 400 grams, which I've measured and compared to a lot of other headsets. And I will be talking about a couple others that I think are uniquely comparable to this for different reasons. But I don't get the premium feel necessarily that I pay $270. This was $150 to $200. I expect this to be an adequate build quality in that price. So this part is kind of interesting. You get a telescoping yoke, you get rotating cups, and tilt. So full articulation, very easy to adjust. And this helps a lot because when you put it on your head, it basically always conforms and fits your head and you get a good seal. So you get consistent bass delivery. So the ergonomics of the headset is excellent. This is a very choice material. This is like a rubbery, like it's kind of clear, but it's brownish. So it looks like a little dirty. Maybe they just wanted to smoke it a little bit, but it has a slightly brown tinge to it. It's already starting to come off on mine. I tried I do my normal torture test stuff to make sure there's no weak points, and pulling it when I did this and twisted it, this piece already came off. I'm sure I can get it back in no problem, but it was kind of interesting. At least that shows that the headband suspension strap will be replaceable if Skullcandy sells it. There's no padding up here, so you have to use the suspension strap. Now, the pads themselves, decent dimensions, 55 millimeters, 47 millimeters of width. 55 millimeters high, and then 25 millimeters of depth. So it's adequate enough padding, or at least pad dimensions, to fit most ears. It's a little bit on the shorter side at 55 millimeters for some, so you're probably going to feel it bump up against the top of your ear. I felt it a little bit, but I could still wear it for a long period of time. And I am pleased to say that these are very easily removable, and you can see that wonderful RGB inside. The RGB is customizable on the app. I can change the lighting intensity, like the saturation, the brightness, and I have a whole range of colors. You actually get most of the RGB effect on the inside of the ear cup and very little on the outside. This is actually maxed out on brightness. If it's dark out, like your room is dark and not well lit up like this wonderful studio, you will see more glowing coming out of this vent. That basically covers the build quality. I think the comfort, to me, I've been able to wear this for quite a long period of time. The sport fabric ear pads help with breathability. It also helps with longevity. So, you know, because it's not using a leatherette pad, it's likely not going to have issues with the material breaking down. So I think it's a smart choice, especially for an open back where a perfect seal isn't as necessary. It's designed to be leaky by default. Another thing I was kind of disappointed at is this microphone boom. It's cool that it's detachable. We'll do a mic test here in a moment. My issue is, we'll do the top-down view. It fights you to the death to not curve towards your face. I mean, I have to look how aggressively I'm bending it, and I'm going to hold it here for a second. And look, it still shoots right back out. I can try to force it as close as I can. Now, this microphone's super sensitive, so I don't have to speak too loudly to get it to work, but it's always jutting out in front of my face. I can't actually put it exactly where I want. I don't know why they went with this material, but I wish they adjust the tension here. And just so you can hear what the microphone sounds like, this is the PLYR 720 microphone with no post-production correction whatsoever. This microphone runs super hot. It's very sensitive. I actually have the gain set to 50% right now on the app. And just to let you know too, the first 3 notches of microphone gain adjustment didn't adjust the gain for me. It was only until I hit the 50% threshold that I actually got a more reasonable reduction. There's no dancing around this. I don't think this microphone sounds that great at all. It's certainly usable in a lot of game and chat situations. Your friends really won't complain too much. It sounds like a typical gaming headset, but in the price point of $270, when we've had so many insane headsets over the last couple of years, honestly have pretty stellar mic performance, even from Logitech, Astro, Razer, SteelSeries, and the new HyperX stuff. This is a bit behind the mark. And also, again, I mentioned this before, but just in case you skip to this part, the side tone is really weak here too. I have the side tone maxed out right now, and all it adds is a little bit of a robotic fill in the ear cups, but I'm hearing myself more through the fact that this is an open back headset, so I'm hearing myself speak kind of like I'm not wearing headphones at all. Now, when it comes to sound quality, there's 2 ways to explain it. There is through objective data, which is measurements, and I use an ear simulator rig for left and right channels, and then there is the subjective side, which is my opinion. I try to do both as openly as possible because I think it helps. And I've explained this in the past. I use a Gross simulator rig, and it's a KB7 or IC711 clone with an KB006X Pinna-clone. So you don't have to know what that means. I have a link in the description below if you want to compare against many other headsets that I've measured. Now, when you look at the frequency response of the PLYR 720, it's actually quite good. Openbacks have a benefit of sounding more natural, especially in the mid-range. It's not a guarantee that it's always going to sound great, but I am pleased to say that Skullcandy did a really good bass sound profile here. A little bit of a bass lift at 80 Hertz, which is good. I think a lot of gamers want more bass. The sub roll-off is normal because it's a open back. Open backs typically don't have the same amount of sub bass extension and depth that a lot of closed backs do. So if you want that, maybe look at a different model. However, the mid-range is quite good. This little lift at 500 to 800 Hertz, it can make some vocals sound just slightly thicker and boxy sounding, but it's really, really minor. It's a minor coloration, but the rest of the higher frequencies are pretty good leading into the vocal region. Doesn't come across too shouty. There's a big dip here at 4,000 to 5,000 Hertz, which by itself wouldn't be too bad. My only real issue, purely on the measurement side for a gaming headset, is the spike at 8,000 Hertz is quite strong. So if you EQ that down, the headset as a whole starts to sound darker because it's surrounded by less emphasis in the mid and high treble. So the only real emphasis and sparkle that you're getting is really concentrated, at least on this measurement rig, at 7 to 8,500 Hertz, maybe 9,000 Hertz. So the Skullcandy app, it allows you to do multiple bands of EQ. It's a 10 band and it does save to the headset. If you adjust the 8 kilohertz down, I just recommend going 3 notches down because the app won't show you a number, it just shows you lines, but luckily every step down as you click it is going to be 1 decibel. So bring it down to -3. It's going to make the headset sound a little bit darker, but to me, I'd rather do that than have the sibilance and spikiness of the 8 kilohertz peak, because it really just creeps up on you. And on games like Call of Duty, broken glass, shooting guns, reloading, it sounds a little bit too metallic and clicky, and it's competing with other noises I care much more about. The rest of it's quite good, and depending on what music you listen to, it might not even need any EQ to use, so you can enjoy it quite a bit. Now, things get a little bit interesting when you have that giant ass volume wheel on the side for a Crusher bass. This is a weird thing to measure, and this doesn't explain the whole picture here. So I measured it with 3 different Crusher bass levels. One is bass level 20, and I'm going to hide, so let's switch this back to single channel, so it's like an average line. So if I increase this Crusher bass level to 20, you can see what it does to the bass region. It basically just further emphasizes that 80 hertz area. So you can see where this is going. We're going to go to level 40 now, and now the rattling, if you will, the shaking of the headset is transpiring at lower frequencies as well. So it makes the headset sound like it has more bass. There's an asterisk to that, so bear with me because I have to show you 100, because who doesn't want to see things dialed up to 100? Let's go from 40 to 100. Look at that monstrosity. It is so jarring. It is literally shaking the crap out of your head. Now, this isn't doing bass through the speaker. It's doing bass through haptic motors that shake the headset. So this is artificially showing you more bass than what's coming out of the actual sound waves. As a result, the bass you get is like a lot, but it's very one-dimensional. There's no texture to the bass, there's no nuance to the bass, and yeah, it can be fun for explosions and games and movies to a certain extent, but if you're using this to kind of fill in more of the nuances of bass, so you can hear the difference of a bass guitar versus a kick drum versus EDM or Hans Zimmer's soundtrack, you're not going to get any of those extra dimensions of bass. It's kind of like an on-off switch, and it's very thumpy. I can't really use it more than like 20 or 30. Anything past that, it's so overwhelming for me that it becomes uncomfortable. But there are some huge benefits and something I found quite fun when we get into the subjective sound quality. Now, there is one other wireless gaming headset out there. This is the Turtle Beach Atlas Air. So I wanted to add that so you can see how it stacked up. The Atlas Air has a nice smooth mid-range and bass delivery, and it actually extends even deeper. There's less of a bass hump at 80 hertz, but you get a little bit more sub-bass with the Atlas Air. It may not seem like it as much because there's a recess in the mids. It's very much a V-shaped headset and much more energy in the vocal region and all of the treble as a whole. So the Atlas Air is going to sound brighter, more shimmery. It's going to have a wider stage and sound more sparkly, but that might be fatiguing for some people. Thankfully, you can EQ it down, but this is really the only other competitor on the wireless space to the Skullcandy in terms of having something with, open back design. All right, so let's get into subjective sound quality. And I kind of opened with this. When I just put this on and started playing, I was like, damn, this actually sounds pretty good. And I like the comfort. I think for FPS gaming, I needed to EQ down that 8,000 hertz just a little bit because it thought it was a little bit sharp. For immersive gaming, it's actually quite fun, and just dialing up that Crusher bass just a little bit, I think added quite a bit of immersion to it. What I loved this headset for, this is like, so the whole title of this video being like the best and worst experience of my life, and that's because I've never had so many bugs and mismatches of what the software and the manual is telling me versus how it's performed, defects with the headset, all these things. I'll rehash this at the end. I'm sidetracking here. But the thing I love the most about this is when I use this headset for my racing sim. I am really into racing. I used to race Time Attack, when I was younger, of course, and did some development driving for Lexus. So I have a lot of track time, and it's something I miss. So the racing sim fills that gap. This, because it's an open back and it's comfortable and it sounds as good as it does, adding a little bit of haptic to it made it one of the most immersive and enjoyable audio experiences I had on my racing sim. Just because, and I don't like it for FPS or music really. I think it's too much of conflicting information in my head, and frankly, I didn't care for it as much. But on the racing sim side, my God, when you have road noise and like the tire noise hitting the ground and winds flying by and stuff like that, adding just a little bit of haptics adds some tactility to what you're hearing on the racing sim. And I have speakers mounted to it. I have a subwoofer underneath. So I'm not trying to like compete with that. It's different type of experience. But for a headset side, this is the closest thing I've ever heard and felt to what I want in real life on racing. It's not like it's this game-changing sound, and audiophile headphones that are much more expensive naturally are going to sound great, but there is something to be said about having a little bit of tactility on your head. It helps with immersion. So there are certain times where I actually think it's amazing to have, and I really enjoyed it, and other times where I don't use the Skull Crusher base at all. I call it Skullcandy, Skull Crusher, combining a couple things here. So I think it's good, but my issue is at $270. If you're not using that haptic system, then you're basically focusing more on the sound quality. Now, they actually got the sound quality quite good. Is it going to compete purely with things like the Fractalscape or Astro's A50X or the Maxwell? I don't think it's at that level. And the Astro A50X is a gray area because to me it really benefits from EQ. Even without EQ, I was pretty happy with the way this sounded. I think the biggest issue that takes away from my enjoyment was a myriad of other issues that I had. Once I did just that little bit of EQ though, I was super competitive in Call of Duty. I feel like it has a nice clean image presentation and I'm not like getting any weird sounds that I don't like. It's just tabling off that little bit of spike. So, you know, from a competitive standpoint, it's fine. Because it doesn't have any sound isolation, if you have a noisy room or a loud PC, you might have issues with hearing quieter footsteps because then you have to compete with your background noise more. Sound leakage was not bad, so even if you turn it up, my friend said they couldn't hear anything, which was good because I couldn't mute myself if they could. But overall, pretty solid performer in the sound department. I really have less to complain about there than most other aspects of this headset. So I brought out a couple other headsets that are extremely different, but somewhat the same. So this is an open back headset from Turtle Beach. It's the Atlas Air. Most comfortable headset I think I've ever worn. It's super lightweight, very breathable, very open. If you wear glasses, it really doesn't get any better than this. And they have things like the microphone ergonomics in place so I can place it exactly where I want. This doesn't work on Xbox, at least wirelessly. It has a 3.5 millimeter connection as well, so you can plug that into Xbox. But I think this had its own issues, especially with EQ not working right. And Turtle Beach has made a lot of headway here on the firmware update side. It started with more problems, but for under $200, it's a really solid performer. I actually think the PLYR 720 sounds better on music. It doesn't require nearly as much EQ, but it sounds just a little bit more clear. And then you have that fun wheel, if you will, that this does not have. This has less bass, but it's a little bit deeper bass, and it's just a sparklier, brighter presentation. Yes, I said sparklier. Then you have the Razer Kraken V4 Pro. This is if you want haptics and you are not open to the idea of an open back. You want more noise isolation, or maybe some of the other issues I explained earlier turned you off from that. So this is actually built extremely well. This entire thing is metal and it feels super heavy and robust. It should, because this thing is almost $400. It's a pretty expensive headset. Retractable mic. It comes with this OLED screen wheel, if you will, or like DAC. And you have different volume controls. Onboard EQ, of course. PC console support. This doesn't work on Xbox either, but you can use 3.5 millimeter auxiliary connections on this. This is solid. The mic isn't great. I think it has different audio EQ issues. Again, it doesn't sound as clear as the 720. The edge here is purely on sound quality, and comfort is good enough. It's just the other issues. So it's kind of a shame that if you want haptics, you have two different headsets that have their own issues. And if you want an open back, you have two different headsets, both of them obviously being related to the PLYR 720. But again, none of these are problem free. I just wanted to show you a couple to consider, both above and below this price, if you need either open or haptics. All right, so we've made it to the end of the video, and there's a lot of potential here. It had good bones because the sound quality was pretty darn good, to be honest, and comfort's not bad either. I'm just so disappointed with how buggy this was, and I felt like a lot of things just weren't proofread or QA tested. This shouldn't have ever been released like this because no one has their microphone jutting out. The software on the Skullcandy app looks cool, but it doesn't have two-way communication, so it's not like giving you the actual information of what your headset's connected to. Even the mobile app, which the mobile app looks super sweet, and you can do a lot of changes there. The mobile app allows you to adjust game to chat mix. They reversed the graphics on the mobile app, so when you fade to game, it actually fades to chat on the headset and vice versa. So there was just so many little issues that I feel like if you just use it for an hour, some of these things would be easily identified. At least this is what happened on my model. So I'm only sharing my experience. The other one is there's a feature on the Skullcandy software called like ESP for improving your sound. It's pretty slick. It does like a listening test for beeps to calibrate it. I found it added a little bit too much treble, but I like programs that at least try to give you some options to fine tune the sound. It worked fine the first day I used it. Then I power cycle the headset, days go by of using it, and now every time I turn on ESP, it gets rid of almost all sound. I have a little bit of bass once in a while, and then super high treble like above 18,000 hertz, and nothing in between. It's like someone's talking to you underwater and their hands over their mouth. It totally jacks up the sound. THX is pretty fun with this. It makes it more immersive. Everything gets louder. You get more bass, which is helpful because this doesn't get super loud on PC. My volume on Xbox and PlayStation wasn't too bad, but listening to music on Tidal didn't get that loud either. This has a feature called THX head tracking, which was really cool, but the problem was if I turned my head too quick and then I look straight again, the audio was stuck off center, and the only way to fix that was to press and hold custom to disable THX and then press and hold again to turn it back on and kind of start from square one. So there are a lot of things thrown at this, and on paper, between the comfort, battery life, onboard EQ, simultaneous Bluetooth, it has pretty damn good sound quality, the Crusher bass, it's comfortable, everything looks great on paper, but the actual user experience to me was pretty poor, and I get nervous. It's creaking even just holding this. So I don't even know what to say, to be honest. I like certain things about it, but I'm also kind of disappointed, and it just doesn't make any sense. And I just noticed something else that made me a little crazy. I'm assuming this was intentional, but you can see there's 2 green screws on that side. This side has 2 silver screws, and this side has 4 silver screws. I didn't even notice that before. So that probably sums up my experience. I hope you found this helpful, guys. I'm not doing this for clicks or drama. I try to share my Onyx experience. If you got this headset and you love it, then I can see why you would love it, because if it works great, I can see a lot of benefits to it. My experience was frankly pretty damn bad. So I hope you found the video helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to see it in some future videos. I always try to keep it honest with everybody. And thank you so much for the support and watching this. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.